Okay, so in this tutorial, I'm going to make a working elevator, and what I've done is copy and pasted in the actual elevator static object into the elevator shaft. For this tutorial I'm using the XP1 Air Tower, which is found in Battlefield 2, Project Reality and so on. So I'm going to get the first elevator static into place. Make sure it's in the ground position to where I want it, and I'm going to paste in a second static object exactly the same, and I'm going to right click on the first static object and go to copy transformation and then paste it onto the second static object so it puts it in exactly the same place. And all I'm going to do is use and drag it up into the position on the top floor, like so. Okay, so I've got two elevator positions in place. What I need to do is create the trigger for this elevator first. This would be the switch, so players will be interacting with this by pressing the use button. You could change it to fire, explosion, move. So I'm just going to call this triggerable underscore lift, and this radius here is the radius the player needs to be stood inside to be able to activate that switch. So I'm going to put it I think what I'll do is I'll make it down to size 1, and I'll actually have it eventually as a switch on the wall. So I'll just place that up against the wall sort of halfway, so the player has to be sort of face first with the wall for it to work. Okay, so as I say, I've got two statics, so I'm going to create a triggerable target. Now this is the actual object that's going to move, so I'm going to call this lift, lift room, because we know it's the actual room. I'm going to highlight that, go to Triggerable Target on the left tweak box and give it a geometry, and that's the same name as what the actual elevator lift room is going to be, so that's going to be XP1 Air Tower underscore elevator. Hit enter on that, and it should give it the geometry. Well, it'll turn it into an object. So I'm going to click on the first static object, which is the secondary position. So I want the lift to go from the bottom to the top, so that's the secondary position. And I'm going to select that static object, right click, copy the transformation, and what I'm going to do is paste that transformation onto the triggerable target. So it puts it in exactly the same position and rotation as the top lift area. So there's basically two geometries there right now overlapping each other perfectly. Okay, and I'll right click that and go to secondary position, set secondary position, and then I'm going to drag it down into its primary static position where it's going to be the first time you find it. And that's going to be in the same position as, well, almost the same position as the first static object. So I'm going to give this a trigger type. Is it a trigger type? No, it's an event. So I'm going to change that from 3 to 1, which means that it's a usable event, so players will have to use the switch for it to work. And I'm going to save the map, objects and triggerables, and I'll exit the editor. Once it's saved, go into your map folder and find your triggerable templates.conf file and open it in your favorite editor. I'm just using Notepad++, and underneath that line object template not cycled if occupied, put in a line saying object template dot add triggerable target space, and then the name of the triggerable target underneath, which is the actual object, so to speak. So I'm just going to copy and paste that into the end of that line and save it. And I'll close the editor, open up the map again from a fresh start in the editor, and fly back into the elevator area where I'm working. And what I want to do now is I'm going to delete the original static objects so they don't collide with the new triggerable objects, which is the actual elevator. So the only elevator you see there now is the triggerable one, and we'll just right click on the switch, go to test triggerable, and it's as simple as that really. We've got a working elevator, but it's not a working elevator unless you've got doors and a switch. So I'm just going to test the triggerable again to bring it back down, back into the primary position. What I'm going to do is use this metal door, which is just you can use any object you like, if it's a door, a fence, anything really. So I'm just going to copy, Control C and Control V, paste it into place, and I'm just going to put this into the right place first. Let's get it into the right place. As I say, you can use any object that you want. Let's rotate it around. And because we're going to be putting two doors as one door, because we want it to look like an elevator door, so it's two parts to the door overlapping, I'm going to put this centered, and I'm using the tiles on the floor as a rough center marker. Copy the second door, and I'm going to copy the transformation from the first door to the second door so it's exactly in line, put it into place so it makes a full door, and then I'm just going to adjust it a little bit so it's not sliding into each other. I'll just overlap it just a very slight amount so it looks like it's sliding behind the other door. And I'm going to repeat this process with the upstairs by pasting another door, copy and pasting the transformation from the first left door, and then all I need to do is slide that upwards into position so now it's in line. That'll do that. Yep, that'll do. And then the same again, paste in a new door. Paste in the new door, and then I'm going to copy the right side door's transformation and paste it onto the new door to go upstairs. And yet again, I'm just going to drag that fourth door into the correct position. Like so. So we've got an elevator lift room, the actual room. Now we've got four static object doors, left, right, left, right. So we're going to create the first door as a triggerable target, which is going to be the bottom or the lower left door. And we're going to give that the geometry of the door, so it becomes the door. 1 second. So geometry, I'll stretch the box out as well because sometimes the names don't always fit in the box. So if you just stretch that out, you'll be able to put longer names in. So metal door underscore 128 times 256 underscore L. I think the L just means left, but that's just the name of the object. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it matches the static. And I'm going to copy the transformation from the first bottom left static object and paste it onto the new triggerable target door. So that triggerable target is now perfectly overlapping the original static object. Now create a second triggerable target, which is going to be the low right side door. And I'm going to copy the transformation from the right static door onto the low right triggerable target. So we've got two triggerable targets in exactly the same place as the original statics that I've placed there just as a marker. So I'm going to just repeat this process now with the upper doors. What I'm going to do here is actually delete the original static object doors, so we've only got the triggerable targets in place. So that's the bottom left door that's been deleted, and the bottom right door that's been deleted. Oh yeah, I need to put the secondary position as the doors open. So I'm going to set on both low left and low right triggerable targets as the secondary position as open, because when you first come to it they're going to be closed for the moment. I'll explain more shortly, because eventually we want the what we want is the doors to appear open when you first see them and then close. But because it's going to be two sets of doors up and down and a working elevator, you won't be able to time the doors in the elevator movement with the doors closing again, because there is not a secondary cycle time delay. There's only a singular time delay. So we have to set those doors open as the secondary position. Okay, so we're just going to get rid of that excess door. Okay, low, right, let's just line them up correctly. So when you leave that triggerable target in the place you've actually physically left it, that is going to be its primary position. So we're going to just repeat the process at the top now, and I'm going to go to create triggerable target, and we're going to call this high left. Obviously we've got to give it that geometry of the door, so metal door underscore 128 times 256 underscore L, and we'll drag that up a little bit. We're going to copy the transformation of the upper left static door and paste that transformation onto the new high left triggerable target, similar to what we did on the bottom ones. So that's exactly in the right place. I'm not going to, I'll just delete the original static there now, just get rid of it because we've got a new triggerable target door in place. What I'm going to do is create the next final door is high right triggerable target, and again give it the geometry of the door, metal door 128 times 256 underscore L. And we're going to right click the original static right door, copy transformation again, and we're going to paste that onto the new triggerable target. So we've technically got 4 doors there, 2 static objects and, well, I deleted one, and then 2 triggerable targets. So I'm going to open the left door and set it as secondary position, and I'll open the right door and set it as secondary position, and then I'm going to put the doors back into their original closed state. So I'll just use the marker on the floor of the tiles just to get a rough center point again, and go to right, put that in there like so. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we've got the primary and secondary position set, and we're going to edit, save the map, edit, close the editor, and we're going to go back into our triggerable templates.com using Notepad, and we're going to create 4 more lines in here for each one of the doors. So I'm just going to copy that piece of code, object template.add triggerable target 4 times. And then underneath on the actual triggerable target section, I'm going to just copy it, just make sure there's no mistakes. I'm going to copy in the exact name from each one. So triggerable target left is in, triggerable target right. So that one switch is going to set off the chain reaction of all 5 objects. That's the lift and all 4 doors. and then high right. Okay, we'll save that, close that, and we'll open up the map again in the editor. Just one thing to remember, always put your triggerables back in the primary position before you save your map, because you will really mess things up otherwise and you'll have to start again. So we're just going to right click on the switch and test it. So yeah, the doors open and the lift goes up, and the upper floor doors have opened themselves as well, and the lift has stopped at the top. So I'm going to put that back to position 1. So I'm going to retest the triggerable to put it back to its original state. And now all we've got to really do is work on the timing of the triggers, the delay of the triggers, and how many cycles. So each door should have to automatically close without pressing the trigger again, means to say you've got to have 2 cycles, so it opens and then closes by itself. So we're going to change the, first of all, we're going to change the left side doors to open a little bit slower, so it looks like they're sliding into each other. And we can just do that in the tweaker box under player controlled objects. Movement speed, I'm going to put at half the speed, so by the time that they open fully they're going to be there at the same time. Okay, and I'll just do that with both the lower left door and the higher left door, and we get that kind of effect with the doors. And yet again the same will apply to the upper doors. And we just test it again to bring it back to position 1. As I say, it's just about messing with the timing of each of the events that happens now, so it all happens in the right place. So we want to delay the lift from taking off before the doors open or close, and we're going to say that the cycle's about 10 for the time being. We'll work from that and we'll make an average a little bit later. We want to give the players time to actually enter the lift, get everybody in there, and also, you know, before it actually triggers and the elevator moves up, we want to give it delay, and we need to give it 2 cycles, so the whole thing will reset itself back to position 1 afterwards. So the lift is going to go up to the top, the doors will open, then close, and the lift will come back down and the doors will open again, and it will just do it automatically. Anyway, so just test that delay. It's a little bit too long, as you can see, and obviously we haven't put a delay cycle on the doors yet for them to automatically close, and there'll be a delay further on of a further maybe 10 seconds now. I don't know why I just did test triggerable, it's automated, so it should bring itself back down. But it really is a case of just patience and getting the timing of each of the events the same, and also allowing time for the player to be able to enter the lift, or player and his friends. I think you can probably fit 7 or 8 people in this lift. So what I'm doing now is making all of the doors have a secondary cycle just by changing it to cycles 2, and I'm going to delay this. I'm going to delay the cycle as well, so the doors don't open whilst the lift's not in position, or before the player gets a chance to get in the lift. So we're going to set this to, yeah, we'll say 6 seconds. I think it's 6 seconds. It might work from actual server tick. And 2 cycles, obviously, because it opens and closes. Delay before start 6, the same as the other door. And now what we'll do is test that triggerable. So the door closes, and the lift will, by itself, should do. The lift should go up. and we're going to put those same delays on the top door, but including the time for the actual lift to physically move from one floor to the other. So for this, we're just going to put it as 6 at the moment, which is the delay before it recloses itself to get the players back in. 2 cycles, of course. 6 cycles delay. Okay, so the lift has come back down. So at the start I said we need 2 cycles for the doors at the bottom, and the positions was secondary position was always open. Now you have to do that anyway if you want the doors to appear to be in the secondary position when you first load the map. So when a player comes to it, they don't have to press the buzzer to go in. So after a little time of messing around, I've set the timing to 20 and various different things, and I've put the trigger on the inside switch so you can go in and use it. Doors close, elevator goes up, and the doors should open at the correct time, minus a couple of seconds. I can obviously make that a little bit quicker as well, and that will remain open for maybe 10 seconds before it will automatically close again to take the lift back down. Now you could, if you wanted to, put a second switch on the top floor, but I don't really recommend that, because pressing that trigger at the same time as the event's actually happening will potentially crash a server. So it's best just to have one switch and have an automated the automated system go ahead. So that's basically how triggerables work, and I hope you've enjoyed the little tutorial, and see you in the next one.